Today we will dive into the dark depths of the human psyche, telling a story that shocked not only Australia, but the whole world with its unimaginable cruelty. This is the story of Katherine Knight, a woman whose name has become synonymous with horror and whose crime has entered the annals of criminal history as one of the most shocking and inhumane. The story of Katherine Knight is not just a crime story. This is a deep dive into the psychology of the criminal, an exploration of the dark corners of consciousness, where the most terrible ideas are born. We will trace the life of this woman, try to understand what led her to commit such a terrible act, and consider the consequences that this crime had for Australian society and the justice system. In the quiet town of Aberdeen, lost among the picturesque landscapes of New South Wales in Australia at the end of the XX century, there lived a woman whose story makes even the most persistent shudder. At first glance, Katherine Mary Knight seemed like an ordinary resident of a provincial town, a sweet and gentle mother of 4 children who led a measured life, typical for many Australians. Katherine was known for her love of working at the local slaughterhouse, where she showed extraordinary skill with cutting tools. Her passion for sharp objects was also expressed in her personal hobby, an impressive collection of knives, which she carefully kept at home. This unusual passion caused only mild bewilderment among others, but no one could imagine what sinister role it would play in the future. Katherine's personal life was full of ups and downs. It seemed that she sincerely aspired to love and family happiness, but her relationships with men often turned into pain and disappointment. Many in the city sympathized with her, seeing her as a victim of unsuccessful romantic relationships and a difficult fate. However, behind the facade of Katherine Knight's ordinary life, there was a dark and frightening reality. Her true nature, which remained in the shadows for a long time, harbored such horrors that it is difficult to imagine even in the most terrible nightmares. The events that took place in her house shocked not only the locals, but also the whole country, revealing the true face of a woman whom many considered an ordinary neighbor. This story is a vivid example of how something monstrous can hide behind the mundane, and how thin the line between normality and madness is. Diving into the story of Katherine Knight, we will encounter the dark side of human nature, which challenges our understanding and makes us think about the hidden depths of the human psyche. Katherine Mary Knight was born on October 24, 1955 in the small provincial town of Aberdeen, New South Wales, Australia. From the very beginning, life was not kind to little Katherine, and her childhood became a gloomy prelude to future tragic events. The Knight family was far from ideal. Katherine's father, Ken Knight, suffered from alcohol addiction, which turned him into a cruel tyrant. He regularly raised his hand against his wife Barbara, creating an atmosphere of constant fear and tension in the house. Little Katherine often witnessed these terrible scenes, which undoubtedly left a deep mark on her fragile psyche. Barbara, in turn, told Katherine and her sisters about her sexual relationships, which left a deep mark on the girl's psyche. The school years did not bring relief. In school, Katherine quickly earned a reputation as a bully. She often got into conflicts with classmates, showed unreasonable aggression towards others. The situation in the family was becoming more and more tense. At some point, Barbara Raffin decided to leave her first husband. However, instead of starting a new life, she entered into a relationship with Ken Knight, which only aggravated the already difficult family situation. The family lived in constant tension, and Katherine had faced violence and sexual harassment from her relatives since childhood. Completing her school education was not so much the beginning of a new chapter for Katherine Knight as the continuation of her dark life path. After leaving school, she did not seek higher education or seek a prestigious job. Instead, Katherine found a place for herself that turned out to perfectly match her hidden inclinations. Knight got a job at a local slaughterhouse, and this decision was a turning point in her life. At her new place of work, she unexpectedly showed an extraordinary interest and ability to butcher animals. Katherine was especially attracted to the process of beheading pigs, in which she achieved a certain skill. Colleagues noted her extraordinary dexterity and composure in doing this job, which caused them mixed feelings of admiration and anxiety. Special attention is drawn to Katherine's attitude to the tools of her work. She had an almost fetishistic attachment to her knives, which she used in the slaughterhouse. This attachment has gone far beyond the professional sphere. Knight insisted on taking her work knives home after each shift. In her bedroom, she made a kind of altar, hanging sharp instruments over the bed. This strange habit caused confusion among others, but no one could guess how ominous an omen it was. The experience of working at the slaughterhouse, as many researchers of her case believe, played a significant role in shaping Catherine's psyche and may have become a key factor in influencing the nature of her future crime. Daily interaction with blood and the process of killing animals probably dulled her sensitivity to the suffering of living beings and formed a distorted idea of the value of life. Thus, the beginning of Catherine Knight's adult life was marked by immersion in a world where violence and death became a daily occurrence. Her unusual interests and behavior, which in another context might have caused serious concern, seemed only slightly eccentric in the conditions of work at the slaughterhouse. No one could have foreseen that this job and strange habits would be the prelude to one of the most shocking crimes in Australian history. In 1973, at the age of 18, Catherine Knight entered into her first serious relationship with David Kellett. However, what was supposed to be the beginning of a happy family life quickly turned into a nightmare, revealing the dark sides of Catherine's personality. Their wedding took place in 1974, but already on their wedding night, alarming signs appeared. Unhappy that David did not meet her expectations, Catherine made her first attempt to kill her husband. This shocking incident was a clear sign of her aggressive behavior and unstable mental state in the context of a romantic relationship. As the marriage progressed, the situation only worsened. Catherine showed extreme jealousy and possessiveness. In one of the most horrifying cases, she attacked another woman, slashing her in the face with a knife, and demanded to be taken to Queensland to search for Kellett. Fortunately, the victim managed to escape, and Catherine was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. This episode clearly showed how dangerous she could be not only for her husband, but also for others. Constant quarrels and aggression quickly turned their marriage into a nightmare. Even while pregnant, Catherine did not restrain her anger, which led to numerous conflicts and violence. Despite the violence, Catherine and David had children. They had two sons who later refused to follow their mother. After the birth of the first child, the violence did not stop. David couldn't stand it and left Catherine. Her aggression and mental disorders only intensified. Catherine was hospitalized with a diagnosis of postpartum depression, but treatment did not bring results. This period of Catherine Knight's life vividly demonstrates how her unstable mental state and propensity for violence manifested themselves in personal relationships, laying the foundation for even more tragic events in the future. Her inability to control her emotions and aggression not only destroyed her first marriage, but also caused irreparable damage to everyone who was associated with her. Her behavior became increasingly unpredictable and dangerous. After a painful divorce from David Kellett, Catherine Knight's life continued its dark spiral of violence and instability. Instead of learning from past experiences, she seemed to be sinking deeper into the abyss of aggression and uncontrollable behavior. The next man in Catherine's life was David Saunders. At first, their relationship looked normal, even promising. However, this lull was only a prelude to a new storm. Soon, Catherine began to show her true nature, displaying increasingly violent and unpredictable behavior. One of the most shocking incidents in their relationship occurred when Catherine, in a fit of rage and wanting to demonstrate her power, cut the throat of Saunders' puppy right in front of his eyes. This horrific act was not just a manifestation of cruelty to animals, but also a clear threat to Saunders himself. Catherine made it clear in no uncertain terms that she could do the same to him. Despite this egregious incident, which was supposed to be an alarm signal, Saunders continued to live with Catherine. The couple even had a daughter. However, the birth of a child did not soften Catherine's character. On the contrary, her aggressive behavior continued to intensify, becoming more dangerous and unpredictable. In the end, this led to the inevitable breakup of their relationship. In the following years, Catherine entered into several romantic relationships, but each time the scenario was repeated. Her uncontrollable aggression, cruelty, and already pretty spoiled psyche invariably destroyed the relationship. Catherine not only psychologically suppressed her partners, but also regularly resorted to physical violence and sometimes direct threats to life. After Saunders, Catherine began dating John Charles Thomas Price, his main victim in his whole life. Their romance began in the late 1990s and lasted for about 6 years. becoming a dark climax in Catherine's history of violence. John Price was well known and respected in the community. He worked at a local mine, where he established himself as a conscientious and hard-working employee, receiving a decent salary. Colleagues and friends appreciated Price for his kindness, responsiveness, and willingness to help. He was a loving father of 3 children from a previous marriage and enjoyed a reputation as a reliable and decent person. When Price began a relationship with Catherine, many in his entourage expressed concern. Friends and colleagues who know about Catherine's turbulent past and her tendency to aggression repeatedly warned John about the danger. They told him about her violent behavior in previous relationships and advised him to be careful. However, Price, probably hoping for the best or not believing that the situation could become so serious, ignored these warnings. As the relationship progressed, Catherine's aggressive nature became more and more apparent. Her outbursts of anger became more frequent, and her behavior became more unpredictable and dangerous. Price was trapped in a toxic relationship that was gradually destroying his life. The situation reached a critical point in February 2000. Realizing that he could no longer tolerate Catherine's aggression and manipulation, Price made the difficult but necessary decision to end their relationship. This decision caused Catherine uncontrollable rage. She couldn't accept the thought of Price leaving her, and her anger turned into a thirst for revenge. The tragic end came on the night of February 29, 2000. On that fateful evening, Catherine, driven by rage and a desire for revenge, broke into Price's house. What happened next became one of the most shocking crimes in Australian history, forever changing the lives of many people and leaving a deep mark on the memory of the entire society. Catherine inflicted 37 deep stab wounds on Price using a meat cleaver, which led to his death. The next morning, when Price did not show up for work, his worried colleagues, remembering his warning, immediately contacted the police. Officers arrived at the scene of the crime and found a terrifying picture. As it turned out, Catherine was about to commit an even more shocking act. She cooked Price's body parts, including a severed head, which she put out with vegetables. She intended to serve this dish to Price's children, but fortunately they did not manage to return home before the police discovered the crime. After the crime, Catherine tried to take her own life, but she was discovered by the police and taken to the hospital. Her cruelty and madness exceeded all imaginable limits, leaving behind only a trail of blood and terrible memories. Catherine was arrested at the scene of the crime. In court, she pleaded guilty, but tried to justify herself, citing a mental disorder. Forensic experts confirmed that she did suffer from mental disorders, but this could not justify her actions. The trial lasted several months, and the public watched the developments with horror. The details of the crime revealed in court were shocking and deeply disgusting. The judges and the jury were unanimous in their decision Catherine Knight must spend the rest of her life in prison. In October 2001, Catherine Knight was sentenced to life in prison without parole. She became the first woman in Australian history to receive such a harsh sentence. The judge noted that this is not the first case of Knight's cruelty in relationships with men, mentioning previous incidents of violence. This is the story of Catherine Knight, a woman whose actions shocked the whole world. This story serves as a grim reminder of the dark depths of the human psyche. She shows how childhood injuries, if left unattended and properly treated, can transform into a destructive force capable not only of distorting a person's life, but also of causing irreparable damage to others. The case of Catherine Knight demonstrates the importance of timely detection and professional treatment of mental disorders. This is a story of unimaginable horror and cruelty. This is a story about a crime that still shocks everyone who hears about it. This is a reminder of how important it is to recognize and prevent violence in time. We have come to the end of this difficult but important narrative. Thank you for taking the time and energy to immerse yourself in this dark but instructive story. Your attention to such complex topics speaks to your willingness to face unpleasant aspects of reality in order to better understand the world around us. If you liked the video, please like it, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new releases. See you soon.